All right, guys, this week's rod review, as you know, I've been doing a bunch of them, is the 7.7 Heavy Sensory Series by 6 Sense. And this one is a rod that I have spent a lot of time with in the last 2 days, fishing out deep, throwing a football jig, throwing a stand-up head, and throwing a big Texas rig, dragging it out deep. But then as we're back here on my home lake, I've been pitching it. And it's not necessarily my pitching rod, but it's handled it really well. It's handling the hook sets really well. I'm just flipping the hybrid jig and flipping it around cover. And it's a rod for doing this that I want this got some meat behind it. So I know that if I crack on this rod, it's meaty. It's a 7.7 Heavy. It's an offshore rod in my opinion. So I don't know how well you can see, this rod's very meaty. It's got a little bit of a tip on the top, but it's a very meaty rod. So what I'm loving about this is it does have a long handle. It's 7.7, obviously a little bit longer than 7.6, but it's definitely longer than what I'm used to at 7.4. My offshore rod, my go-to rod for the last couple of years has been a 7.4 Heavy. This is 7.7 Heavy. What that allows me, I'm noticing I've got a little bit longer handle. I'm making longer casts, and when I set the hook, like I'm getting that really long cast. That's the first part. Fishing out deep, fishing ledges, you want to be able to cast far. Get your bait all the way out, you want to be able to stay far off of it. Your bait's down deep in the water. So not only did you just make a 30, 40, 50 yard cast, but now your bait's sinking, 10 to 30 feet deep, 40 feet deep, however deep you're fishing. So you've got a lot of line out there. So the thing that worries me is that I'm not going to drive that hook home. So that's what I like about this 7.7. It's long, it's strong, it's down to get the friction on. And I joke about that, but I'm being dead serious because I'm very confident that when I get bit, I wind up a little bit and pull. I mean, you're pulling so much rod when you set the hook. There's so much line is moving that I'm driving the hook home every single time. I've loved fishing this rod offshore, fishing brush piles with it, fishing ledges, and it's extremely, extremely sensitive. You guys know how it is when you're dragging a football jig out deep or you're dragging a Carolina rig out. This is also a really good Carolina rig rod. You're dragging any of those out deep and you feel something, you don't know if it's a stump or is it a pile of grass or is it a fish? That's the most important one. You don't want to ever have that moment where you don't know what your bait is in. And so one thing I've learned about this Sensory Series is truly what it says is sensory. It's very, 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 very sensitive. And I've said this in many videos, like in the last 2 videos. When I picked up this rod initially, I was worried that it was gonna break. It's thin, it's a very small diameter rod. It's very lightweight and it's too sensitive to be this strong. But like I said in another video, I already called 6 Sense. As soon as I grabbed these rods, I called 6 Sense and asked them, honestly, and they would tell me, what is your warranty claims like on the Sensory Series? Because it's too nice of a rod. It's too good to be true. And they honestly said, we have less than 1 a month in the entire Sensory Series that breaks. And so to me, that was a huge testament. Those guys are from Texas. They catch big ones, boat flips only. And that's kind of my thing. Like I'm on the Tennessee River a lot and I'm catching, sometimes I catch big fish, but man, I'm fishing a lot of ledges. I'm cranking on them really hard, huge hook sets. A lot of times I might use this same rod and go fish grass with it. That was my main thing is I'm like, with the Sensory Series, I want to know if that's the rod I'm going to promote. I don't want to know that they're breaking and I'm pushing a rod that people are already breaking. And they said completely not. That is not the case with Sensory at all. And so something I'm very proud of. Again, this rod fits just like the other Sensories. It has a full foam handle right here where your hand is. It's not fat, but it's a little bit thicker than it is here in the middle piece, but it's still thin. Like it's significantly thinner than the rods I've used in the past. And then it opens back up. It gets a little bit wider there at the butt, kind of a fighting butt. Fits great in kind of on your ribs, under your armpit, however you're holding the rod. Again, this one comes right to the bend in my arm. So it's like a perfect length for a big meaty rod, except it doesn't feel big and meaty. That's the thing I like about this Sensory Series. This is supposed to be a heavy, big rod that you get tired from dragging around and winding all day and dragging, but you don't have that because this rod's so lightweight. You got Fuji reel seats, aluminum on the top where you tighten the reel down at or tighten the reel seat down at is aluminum. It's got a little bit of 6 Sense swag on it. You got Fuji guides all the way to the tip top and absolutely premium everything. When you grab this rod, you know that you've got something special. And I would not be promoting it at the $249 price point. I would not be promoting it if it was something that I didn't truly believe in. So if you guys are looking for a new rod, specifically a ledge fishing rod for what I've used it for so far, try out the 7.7 Heavy Sensory Series. I really think you're gonna like it, and you can use my code DC10 to save 10% off when you check out. And then finally, I'm gonna go fish with this rod today and show you guys a little bit of on the water action of how this rod performs. And last but not least, 7.7 Heavy Sensory. Now this rod, also multi-purpose, but it's in a different facet. So out here, we got this little rock pile out off this point. Not really, but I'm making that up. Just I'm painting the picture for you guys to see where I'll be using this rod at. So just pretend we got a rock pile. Pretend it's about 20 feet deep. I'm able to just really cover ground with this rod. Extremely sensitive. I can feel everything on the bottom. I'm gonna be dead honest though, the main thing that I'm like truly enjoy about this rod is the light. Well, I've said this a million times, I'm not lying. All of these sensories are so light. Very light, very sensitive.